Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last Lunch and Learn of March. I'm Valerie Anderson, I'm the Director of Communications and Programming for the Florida Native Plant Society. I'm thrilled to have Marina Mertz here from the Florida Wildflower Foundation. Thanks for coming, Marina. Um, we just want to plug our conference. We're in the final preparations for our first ever in-person conference since COVID. So it's been a while, and I know everyone is anxiously awaiting and getting to see friends again and getting back together and nerd out botanically. So if you haven't registered, online registration is closed. Sorry, just closed yesterday. But we do have in-person registration at the conference. So the conference is in Gainesville at the Hilton on 34th. So you can head to our website and check that out and plan to attend. Show up on Thursday for the field trips. To register for the field trips, we have registration also starting Wednesday. All right, so Marina, you want to take it away?
All right, I'm going to share my screen now. Are you seeing that? Oh, I apologize. Okay, everything look good? I apologize for that. All right, so hi everyone. Thank you for having me, Valerie. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, so I'm Marina Mertz. I'm the Roadsides and North Florida Programs Coordinator for the Florida Wildflower Foundation. And today we're going to be talking about how you, as Florida Native Plant Society members, can help protect and document Florida's wildflower-rich roadsides through the Wildflower Watcher forum that's hosted by the Florida Wildflower Foundation. It's a lot of flowers. I'm also going to cover the Monarch Candidate Conservation Agreement with Assurances. I'm going to probably refer to that as the CCAA throughout the rest of the presentation because that's kind of a lot. Or the Monarch CCAA, since there are other conservation agreements out there. And we're going to talk about how your contributions can support the Florida Department of Transportation. I call it FDOT or FDOT in its conservation efforts. So for those of you not familiar with our organization, our mission is to protect, connect, and expand native wildflower habitats. We do that through education, research, planting, and conservation. Our work is made possible primarily through sales and renewals of the state wildflower license plate. So we always like to encourage those that are able to purchase and help support our mission. And to remind folks that if they have a plate, they're eligible for membership. Just shoot us an email and we'll get that sorted out. All right. So let's talk a little bit about why roadside wildflowers matter. So they're not just a pretty view, right? They are essential for biodiversity. They provide food and habitat for pollinators, birds, and other wildlife, small mammals, while also creating these ecological corridors. However, their survival does depend on proper management and accurate data on where they thrive. And that's where the Wildflower Watcher forum that we're going to be talking about comes in. So roadsides intersect every habitat in Florida and they affect us all. I don't ever want to conflate roadsides with true wild conservation lands, but rather like highlight the sheer volume of roadsides that exist and the ecological services they can be playing and how, quite frankly, we are mowing those assets down. Before we get too far in, I also just want to go over this graphic to help clarify and make sure we're all on the same page when we're talking about roadsides, wildflower roadsides. So we have the right-of-way. You'll see that usually abbreviated to ROW, and that refers to the area that's adjacent to the roadside that is publicly owned and managed by either county or state agencies. And then you have the safety strip, and that's that area directly adjacent to the paved portion of the road. It can be a combination of paved and unpaved shoulder. And that is kept mowed to maintain an area for like motorists to pull over safely, change a car tire, get out if they need to from their car. And then you have like the ditch and the swale, and that's that shallow vegetated channel designed to manage stormwater runoff by slowing, filtering, and directing water away from the roadway. And this will depend on the geography, like how deep of a ditch or swale it is, depend on the geography of the road itself. Same with the back slope that you see there. That's that inclined surface that extends upward from the roadside ditch to that natural ground level. And again, the swale and the ditch and the back slope, all those will kind of depend on the road itself. But that is where you will see that potential area for reduced mowing. We'll also talk a little bit about utility corridors. It's not on the graphic, but it's a designated strip of land that like accommodates the infrastructure like power lines, water pipes, gas lines, fiber optics, all of that. And it's maintained by utilities. So in most cases, what we'll be talking about when we refer to a wildflower road is that portion that exists beyond the safety strip, that back slope. And in many cases, the ditch or the swale as well, because you can, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of those wet areas are great for wildflowers. This is for obvious reasons. It's the area inside the right-of-way that's maintained as roadway, but it's beyond where it needs to be kept short for driver safety. So we can certainly advocate for reduced mowing on safety strips because we know that pollinator abundance has been shown to increase. Like when you decrease from mowing from every 3 weeks to every 6. And of course, we do have like many native plants that are compatible with mowing, and that could be good candidates for establishing along safety strips. But for simplicity, let's mostly keep in mind that area on the graphic labeled as potential area for reduced mowing. Okay. So in late 2024, FDOT became part of the Monarch Candidate Conservation Agreement with Assurances, the Monarch CCAA. This is a nationwide effort to create and maintain monarch butterfly habitat along managed rights-of-way, that's roadsides and utility corridors. The agreement includes over 40 organizations from the transportation and energy sectors. They're working to ensure roadside lands support native nectar plants and milkweed, the monarch's host plant. So CCAAs are like a formal voluntary agreement between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and non-federal property owners like states. They aim to address the conservation needs of at-risk species, but before they are listed as endangered or threatened. Participants undergo like specific conservation measures that provide a net benefit to the species, and in return, they receive assurances that no additional conservation measures will be required if the species becomes listed in the future. It's kind of like, hey, if you start doing this early and now, you might not have to do more later. So the monarch butterfly is renowned for its long distance migration, and it's experienced significant population declines that highlight the need for conservation efforts. So this agreement encourages transportation and energy partners to provide and maintain monarch habitat on potentially millions of acres of rights-of-way and associated lands. And what's great about that is monarch habitat is also good for a lot of other pollinators. So by participating in the CCAA, partners contribute to the conservation of the monarch butterfly and other pollinators, ensuring that their operations can continue with regulatory assurances if the species is listed under the Endangered Species Act in the future. So one key part of this agreement is annual habitat sampling, which helps measure the effectiveness of conservation efforts like reduced mowing and limiting herbicide use in critical areas. However, with Florida's diverse climate and geography, knowing where and when to sample can be challenging for our state partners, and that's why FDOT approached us. I also just want to highlight briefly what's happening with the monarch status. I'm not an expert in any way in this, but we'll talk a bit about it. With an emphasis that the listing process is not linear at all, and it's not straightforward for most species. Sometimes, you'll see species go on and off. So in December 2024, the Fish and Wildlife Service officially proposed to list the monarch butterfly as a threatened species, and they opened the comments for that public comments until March 12th, 2025, and then they just reopened them again until May 19th. So we currently are in the public comment period of the listing. I'm sure many of you have seen some of those celebratory headlines in the past few weeks about the Monarch's 2024 Eastern winter count. So according to that survey, the population occupied 1.79 hectares. For those of us that think more in acres, it's like 4.5 acres, or an area about the size of 3.5 football fields. They occupied that this past winter. That's an increase, right, from the 0.9 hectares occupied in the previous 2023-2024 overwintering season. So there was like this big, oh, the monarchs are thriving kind of narrative that was in like coming out on the news. But 6 hectares is the conservation goal, and that is greatly reduced from like its peak. I think it was like 17 hectares or something crazy. So now's not the time to slow down those conservation efforts. And the Western monarch count, which you're not seeing as many headlines about, just came out, and that was not great. It was the second lowest on record, surpassed only by the 2022 count, when there were fewer than 2,000 monarch butterflies were recorded during that late season count. So this year's low numbers have rekindled concerns about the future of the migratory Western monarchs for sure. Okay. So why your observations matter. This is where that Wildflower Watcher really proves its value. Florida climates, they vary greatly, right? I'm up here in Tallahassee in the Panhandle, and I know I'm not experiencing the same bloom times as those of you down in South or even Central Florida. Wildflower blooms at different times in different regions. And by reporting what's blooming and where, you're helping FDOT and conservationists better understand these patterns, allowing us to fine-tune conservation efforts and that habitat sampling, while remembering that a key part of the CCAA is annual habitat sampling. So it makes it all the much easier if you know where to look. So now we're going to take a look at that Wildflower Watcher form. So this form is an easy to use tool. I hope, right? I think we built it to be easy to use. And that allows the public and FNPS members like you to report wildflower sightings along Florida's roadsides. So you can submit a potential wildflower roadside. You can report non-compliance of a managed roadside. Like if you see someone mowing and you know they shouldn't be mowing according to an agreement. You can request help initiating a wildflower resolution in your city or county. You can even use it to just volunteer to monitor a roadside. So it collects data like location, species observed, habitat conditions, and this all directly supports conservation planning. So you can find this website. The form is on our website. This is the view if you're like on your computer. We're going to do a video in a second. That would be if you were accessing it on your phone. And I think Valerie's going to share a resource page that has the link to this, maybe in the chat or as a follow-up. And you can just, maybe you'll want to bookmark it. So I'm going to play a video now, or we're going to go through the Wildflower Watcher form together. I'll show you step by step what it's like to fill it out and how to submit your observations. Don't worry, this is quick, it's easy. I just want to like quickly point out, you do not need to know all of the flowers present. You don't have to be this great botanist to be helpful in this regard. If you want, I always recommend like iNaturalist for help with ID. And there's also the new FloraQuest, which is like an app now, and you can use the website as well. So there's a lot of great resources to help you with your ID, but you do not need to do that. All right, so we're gonna start now. So you go to our website and you will expand the About section and go down to Programs, where you will find the roadsides. once you are on the roadside page, we will go to the section that's titled How You Can Help. And you can use that link right there, that hyperlink that says use our form. We'll click on that and it'll pull up the form. So we are gonna choose, I'm reporting a potential roadside wildflower site. And then that'll open up the ability to fill out the rest of the form. So I'm just using a made up example here in this video, but State Road 319 does have some really good wildflowers on it. Yeah, so you put in your road name. If you just know the regular road name, not the county or the state number, that's fine. And then you'll just put the nearest intersection if you know another road's nearby, something like that. Let's do Flowers Road here. And GPS coordinates for beginning and end of the roadside. I just like to copy paste them in. If you don't have them, that's fine. And then, position of the patch. And you have some room there to explain it. And here is where we'll put in what we see on the roadside. Again, you don't have to be botanist. You can be kind of vague here. So you can do something like just Coreopsis species. I don't know which one. Or you can even write something like a pink flower that I don't know. That is totally fine. Yeah, just be as detailed as you can. But if you don't know, you don't know, right? And then you can also use common names, of course, like say fleabane. Then we'll talk about the density of the patch. These are quite broad parameters there. And then we'll just note if pollinators were present, if we saw any bees or butterflies. And then the time of year and the date that the wildflowers were observed. And again, you can be specific or vague here. You can say April 3rd, you can say spring. Both of those work. Then you will choose what habitat is adjacent to the roadside. Let's say it's undeveloped, and then you also want to click wet or dry, So we're doing a dry ditch in this example. And then you have the width of the right of way. And again, you can be as vague or as specific as you want. Maybe we say it's maybe 8 feet, or we could say it varies. Sometimes you have right of way that can vary quite significantly. Or you can get out there with your ruler and tell me it's 5 feet, 4 inches, Again, I go through all of this and, we can get the information we need from it. And then we have a little box here if you're interested in volunteering to help designate it as a wildflower roadside. Even if you're not able to do that, please submit. And then we'll just attach some photos. You can attach, I think it's 4 or 5 photos. If you have more, you'll need to just send them to me in an email. And then fill it out with your first and last name and your email. These are required. I do need to know how to get in touch with you if I have any questions. And then you submit. And that's it. You should see this screen when you're finished. If you don't see this screen, then you're going to have to go back through and see what you missed. So what happens after you submit that data? You provide the data via that Wildflower Watcher form. Then the Florida Wildflower Foundation reviews and compiles those reports. And then I'll send those reports to FDOT. And then your data helps inform FDOT's habitat management decisions. I just want to say this is what happens if it's a state road. There's kind of a different quests that we get sent on if it's a county road, and that's actually the work I prefer to be doing. And so please submit state and county roads. If you submit a county road, that means that we get to, if they have a wildflower resolution in their county, that means that we get to start working on maybe getting that roadside designated in the county as a wildflower roadside, and we'll work directly with the county's public works department to hopefully get up some signs and get reduced mowing management plans in place there. So this helps identify that high value wildflower site. It helps refine habitat management strategies, ensuring that monarch friendly conservation practices along Florida roadsides. So you can start using that Wildflower Watcher form right away. The more data we collect, the better our conservation strategies become. You can also spread the word to fellow FNPS members, your family, your friends, encourage them to document those wildflower sightings whenever they're out and about. Now's the time, really, right? We start getting major blooms in April into March, so please start using it. And I encourage you all to become a wildflower watcher. You can see here, you might recognize some of these folks, right? These are some of our wonderful volunteers out in the field. And most of these folks don't just fill out the form, right? They help us conduct yearly seasonal surveys. It's really important work, especially for the work that we do with counties. If they don't get feedback on how their management strategies are working, then they don't know if they're doing a good job. And sometimes, unfortunately, they can just start mowing again, if they don't know someone's out there checking up on it and giving them feedback. So I'd like to encourage any of you all that know that you have county roads that are in the program to get in touch with me, and I'd love to welcome you on as a volunteer. And you get a really cute safety vest that says Wildflower Watcher on the back. So, bonus. All right. So that wraps up my presentation today. Thank you so much for your time and for being part of Florida roadside wildflower conservation efforts. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the Wildflower Watcher form. I might be able to answer some questions about the Monarch CCAA or anything else we covered today. I'm going to throw this slide up with my contact information if anyone wants to get in touch. I will also be attending and speaking at the upcoming conference, so please come say hi if you want to talk about roadside stuff. I'd love to do so. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Marina. That was great.
Yeah.
We had one question early on. Tracy asked if we can share the link for public comments on monarchs on the listing. So I did drop that that list in the chat. It's in the Federal Register, regulations.gov.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think, did you drop the document in the chat?
I did. Yeah. So I included it on the link to participants that registered before yesterday at noon. And then I also put it in the video description. And then I also put it in the chat. Great.
Yeah. I recommend everyone just, a lot of those links are pretty brief little articles if you have any questions about the process. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so just a kind of personal question, like how much of your job is chasing counties? How much of it is, out looking at plants on roadsides?
Well, not as much as I would like is out on roadsides. I would love to be out more in the field. But we generally do surveys like 3 times a year. So spring is coming up, and I will be out. Luckily, we have gotten Pinellas and Citrus County both on board with getting their counties surveyed for potentially adopting roadsides. So we'll be out and surveying those in April, and I'll be doing that with Jeff Norsini, who is a contractor that works for us, to survey those roadsides. And then sometimes I get to go out with volunteers when they're doing their yearly surveys, if I'm close by or if they'd like some help in the field. As far as tracking down counties, sometimes it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's not so much because they just don't return your calls or your emails, and I'd love to say that everyone is super responsive, but everyone is actually just super busy. And so sometimes with the wildflower roadsides are not like the thing that is top of mind for everyone. So I've really found that like when you're able to compile a report and send it to someone 3 times a year, just keep it kind of like on the top of their head, like, hey, like we saw 6 new species this year, on this roadside, great job. Or like, hey, it looks like your mowers hit this roadside like, a month too early. Just kind of like keeping on top of them, even if they're not responding to you, they're going to read that email, and they're going to know that people are paying attention. So yeah. So I guess I also would like to plug here that if anyone sees wildflowers on the road, fill out the form for sure. But also, if it's in a county, call Public Works or write in a comment and say that you appreciate it, because they get so many comments asking for people to mow more. Like so many. That's like one of the most common complaints they get, is that people are like hey, you're not mowing, you're not mowing. And so like if you see wildflower roads, let them know they're doing a good job, because they get the opposite of that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the questions are rolling in now.
Oh yeah.
Sherry Ellis is asking, are you coming to Alachua County?
Yes. So we are doing a Alachua County survey in April, right after Pinellas and Citrus. So last week of April, I believe.
Awesome. Oh, how do we find out if there's a wildflower area near us?
So if it's a account, you can email me and I'm happy to let you know if I know. So there's not a ton of counties that have county roads, and I have a little Google map where I have those that I can share with folks. FDOT does not currently have any sort of mapping for their wildflower roadsides except for in District 3 here in the Panhandle. So they have a public GIS map that you can view, and I would be happy to share that link with someone as well. Also on our website, we have a web page that says like view wildflowers. I think I might not be correct on the name of the thing, but yeah, it's like where to view wildflowers, and you can go on there, and there is some like great wildflower roadsides, and we have a really good Panhandle brochure if you're in the Panhandle of Florida. And we can get you like a physical copy of that, or we have a PDF copy on our website that is really great if you're looking for some roadsides.
Awesome. Juliet Gross is asking if Collier County has a wildflower resolution.
I'm sorry, which county?
Collier.
I'm not sure off the top of my head if they have a resolution or not. So you can check on our website. We have a page where the how you can help part, and if you go down to resolutions, it has a little map, and you can click on your county there, and it'll tell you if you have a resolution or not, and then also pull up the resolution. So it'll tell you when it was passed, because a lot of counties might have a resolution that was passed in like 2010, 2011. And so maybe it's something you actually want to like say, hey, maybe we need to get a group together and try to get this resolution redone and revamped and like back in front of our county commissioners again. So I definitely recommend checking out to see if your county has one or not.
Awesome. Norma Linden says that she likes the roadside work jacket. How do you get one? Like, what is the process? When do you get your jacket?
So you have to train to become a wildflower watcher and agree to go out and survey 3 times a year a roadside that's adopted into the program. And then I have like a pretty easy training process for you. If I'm local, I'm happy to come and do it like on the roadside in person if I'm close by. If not, we just go to hop on Zoom together, and I send you your volunteer packet, and we do a little virtual training. And then I would send you your vest. I know, right? They're really cute. I was like, someone should capitalize on selling those, or something that just say, I'm just looking at wildflowers in the back for those of us on the side of the road.
Ooh, good question. Louise Ann asks, what about wildflowers in our personal swales when the county says that they prefer grass?
Yeah, I mean, it is if it's on the county right of way, you don't have you can't really do much unless you go and lobby the county not to. So I always think it's worth calling up Public Works and speaking to someone on the phone and just seeing if you can get them to agree to not mow your swale. But again, if it's on the public right of way, sometimes that can be a battle that can't be won, especially if it's in like a very urban, a residential type area. Sometimes that's harder. But yeah, so I would call up Public Works. I would find out, who's in charge of your mowing. I would see if you have a county resolution. Then if you have a county resolution, then you can maybe have like some more weight added to your request. We also have like some little signs that you can put up that say like no mow area. So sometimes people have luck with that if they just like put up a sign that says like please don't mow,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mowers just go around it and they don't even have to like force the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest calling your Public Works, seeing who's mowing your roadside, because it can be different folks, right? It could be county Public Works if you're out in the county. Sometimes like it can be city. Sometimes it can be contracted out. Finding out who's mowing your road, talking with them directly, and then seeing like if you put out a sign, what happens.
Yeah, great advice. Oh, Deborah's asking if you'll have a training at the conference.
No, unfortunately, that would be so much fun. I would love that. No, we're going to be talking about roadside wildflowers, and I'm also going to be speaking with Dr. Laura Warner about her research. So it'll be kind of like a quick little presentation that I'll be doing. But if you would like to come up to me and talk about getting a training, I'd love to do that with you, but not at the conference, probably.
Yeah, so now you all know what she looks like. You can go harass her at the conference.
Yes.
Very exciting. Let's see. Teresa Blanchard asks, how does DOT compromise mowing for invasive species control and not mowing for wildflowers?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about how FDOT does that, but typically what we do is we do not recommend roads that have high invasive pressure be adopted into the roadside program. So if we are surveying a county and we see high invasive pressure, that would not be a roadside that we would recommend get adopted into the wildflower program. And folks who fill out the Wildflower Watcher form, like that survey for us, also note if they see the presence of invasive species so that we can get the county out to those wildflower roads to do like a spot spray. If you're surveying your road and you see like a plant, you can pull it up. But, if you see like some Kogan grass or something that's starting to spread, that's when you want to report that to the county or the state. In general, again, if there's high pressure from invasives, it's just not going to be a viable site because they will be spraying it with herbicide.
Right. Okay. Shirley Green says to please share the GIS page where we can submit an accurate location. So Shirley, I think what you're saying is the Wildflower Watchers page. But if that's not correct, please chime in the chat. So I will go get that link and share it with you. But it's also in these docs here, in the doc that I shared.
Yeah, and you can find that right at that website, the flawildflowers.org, if you can't get the link today.
Okay, and we're going to take two more, at least. Gail Luby asked about sowing wildflowers, planting wildflowers.
Yeah, so we generally don't work with planting wildflowers. We try to find naturally occurring wildflower areas and then manage for them, right? Because it's a lot easier to keep what you have than it is to create something from scratch. But that's not to say that we wouldn't help a county if they did have the funds and the resources to do the proper it can be a lot to properly site prep a roadside and then to seed it, right? And it sometimes can not be that successful. And so that's why we try to tend to encourage counties to find what they already have first. And then if you start managing that successfully, that wildflower area will grow, hopefully, right? Because you're enabling the seed to mature and ripen and spread. But there are some counties that will do some planting. Actually, Citrus County is planting some wildflowers right now along some of its roadsides as part of its program. FDOT currently does seeding of its roadsides, but we generally don't advocate that folks use that option. You can request that FDOT seeds a state roadside in your county if you have a county resolution. We don't advocate for that right now because FDOT does not currently buy native seed. Not all of it is native seed, right? You'll see that Drummond's phlox, the Gaillardia, the Coreopsis basalis, and they generally go with like low bid offer, right, for seeds. And we totally understand the limitations they're working under because there just isn't that robust native seed supply that we need in order for them to like address all of their needs for planting. So yeah, again, I would just advocate for finding those naturally occurring wildflower sites and properly managing those while we work on growing up this robust native seed supply that hopefully in the future we can use to seed our roads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. we did have a follow-up question about talking about roadside phlox, so I think you covered that.
Yeah. Yeah, that hot pink, pretty flock. I mean, it's beautiful, right, on the sides of the road. We
Yeah.
can all appreciate that. It's quite striking, but that is not a native species there.
Um, Diane DeGrand asks, are there any other agreements to not mow in other kinds of right-of-ways that are not just roadsides, like railroad tracks?
Yeah. So there are other agreements that you can get done. So you can call up your utility. There are folks who, on a small scale, like Gail Sheets in Gainesville, right? They have a utility corridor right of way in their HOA, and they've worked out a reduced mowing plan inside of that for this like sandhill restoration project. So those kinds of things are totally possible. I've worked with Talquin Electric up here in the Panhandle for them to reduce mowing. A lot of times, utility corridors are perfect places for reduced mowing because they only will mow like once every 3 years, anyways, because they're just trying to not encourage like tall, shrubby things from getting into lines. So they usually have a lesser mowing schedule already, but they also, depending on the utility provider, can tend to use more herbicide, and so that could be something that you could work with them to reduce as well.
Yeah, that's great. We do have Louise is following up on her swale. The
Mm-hmm.
county's telling her to pull it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what county she's in, but maybe this is something that could be, a long-term, county relations. You could help her, maybe we could help her.
Yeah, definitely. So please give me like just shoot me an email. It's up there on the screen. MERTZ at floridawildflowers.org, and maybe we can work together in your county to to get that that swale designated as a roadside habitat. It can be hard when you have this adversarial uh you know county staff, or I'm not sure if it's like a commission or who she's working with, but it can be kind of like a long road to sow, right? So yeah, I'm definitely happy to help you in any way that I can with resources that you can help present to them, um, or lend you an ear, or give them a call. So please get in touch.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question about herbicide toxicity, which I would
Mm.
say is probably neither of our expertise. But Gail is asking, how toxic is the spray to eliminate Kogan grass? In other words, are you cutting off your nose to spite your face?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is like a debate, continual debate, right, with those of us who are doing invasive species management, and also, concerned about the effects of, those herbicides. And I think, what I've personally come down to is that, like, I don't use those things in my yard unless I absolutely have to, like if I have, and I use as minimal amount as I can, very small spot treatment. Um, and I think what generally habitat managers say, is like if you use a little bit of herbicide now, it reduces the need for a lot potentially in the future. So using really targeted, really smart applications of herbicide can really help in the battle against invasive species. Kogan grass is like a really scary one to me. Like when I see it out there in those huge monocultures, it's really worrisome. So personally, I don't mind seeing when I see the county spraying, but I also, yeah, am not an expert in herbicide toxicity at all.
Yeah, you know, we have to use some herbicide. We have property up near Akawaha, and we assist in habitat management in various places. And Kogan grass and lots of our native plants are very incompatible. And
Mhm.
it's not like it salts the earth. So like a glyphosate, imazapyr mix, um, maybe there are health effects to the people who are spraying. Maybe there's not. Um, we're as cautious as possible, and stuff. Native plants do grow back in subsequent seasons after treatment for Kogan grass. So it's what we have now to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll take a final question. We have Kathy asked, what is the blanket flower controversy?
So it got kicked off our native list. So yeah, it is not considered a Florida native anymore. Well, we do have a native gaillardia, and we have it here in the Panhandle on some of our county roads. It's beautiful. It's not as showy. It's not as commercially available. It's not as easy to establish. Yeah, so with the Florida Wildflower Foundation, we only advocate and speak out on behalf of native wildflowers, and so that doesn't include anymore that beautiful blanket flower. So yeah, and we do have a resource page up on our website that explains a bit more about it if you'd like to go check it out.
Yeah, we've weighed in as well on that change. So
Yeah.
lots of commentary from the native plant wildflower organizations on that.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
you.
I think there's some others coming down the line too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people looking at these. If you have never seen it in the wild and you've only ever seen it in people's yards, think that maybe those might not be considered native.
Yeah.
We're getting some thank yous and great directions. So, and I think somebody asked about the conference, so I posted the conference in the chat. And I think that covers everything, all the questions.
All right, awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and presenting, and I really look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you there, and I hope some of you all have additional questions you're going to come up and talk to me about.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a great weekend.